Why people don't see that I have changed. Hey guys, so I want to do a little video on this topic, like why people don't notice that I've changed or I'm a different person. I'm no longer the person that I am or I was. This has come during my time when I was doing counseling for people with addictions, because when they did change or they stopped using or they stopped doing their behaviors, manipulating, lying, cheating, um, their person that they were with in a relationship would see them still from that perspective, even though they've made changes in their life, and they would always question why. And they're like, well, why would I change if they're still seeing me as the person that I was, not who I am? Is because you've imprinted into them who you are as a person. And so it's hard for them, because when we've gained a perception, a reality of a person, and we're not awake to the realization that people can change, and there's been things that's been done in that relationship to have lost trust or things like that. It's hard for a person, if they're not understanding or able to change their preference or reference to that person. It's hard for them to realize that there's been change. So it's part of our realization of where we are at the time. So it's something that just has to happen over time, and it's just not something that's going to happen overnight. They're not going to be able to see that you're a different person or that you've changed overnight, because they have this ingrainment of who you are, this realization of who you are, and they're not able to see beyond that, because of whatever's been happening in that situation between you and them. And there's got to be healing that happens between you, in order for them to let go of that and heal that and let that go, and so that there can be change for them to see you as the new person, right? So a lot of times when we show up a certain way, that's how we are showing up to them, and that's how it's like a mental picture per se. This is who this person is that I relate to you, and the book talks about the relation and the related. So this is the person who I relate to as you. Who you are is this person, and this is how I know you as. So whenever I see you, I automatically know you from this viewpoint. However, we have different viewpoints of ourselves. So for instance, when a person acts one way with their family, they may act a different way with their friends, and then they may act a different way with their spouse or their girlfriend, or their children. So we have all these different aspects of ourselves. However, that's the mental picture we give to them. So now we have that reference in the mind to that person from that perspective. Those are my parents, those are my kids, those are my friends, and we act accordingly to that, instead of, and we become a different person in each of these, right? So we have all these different personalities that they all know us from, and we're multiple people, but we're actually only one person. But we play these different roles within ourselves to these different situations, these scenarios, these experiences, these roles, right? Who am I showing up to these people that are in my life? Or am I just being the one person that I am? Or am I being this way because that's how they accept me? A lot of times when we learn, when we grow up, there's a certain way that we have to be in order to, exist or to survive in the environment that we are, depending on the environment that we're born in. So if your parents are maybe not accepting of you being your full true self, you will negate part of yourself to be the person that they want you to show up as. And so we learn that at a very early age to adapt per se to our environment and to the people that are in our lives to be a certain way. And so when things that we do that are acceptable to them, we get scolded or yelled at or persuaded not to be that way, by being shamed or by punishment. And it's just how we learn to evolve and to be in every situations. And so if we can't be our true selves and our full selves, then everybody's going to have their own perception of who we are from that perspective. and what we're showing up. So if you're hanging out with somebody, of course, who you're going to be doing or using drugs or whatever, that's the person that you're going to be showing up there. But then, that leads into other things, into the rest of your lives. And so this person, it causes, if you're going to be one way and then try to be a different way to this person who you've only shown up to in one way, you're going to cause some disillusion to them, and depends on what that is. Because if you're only showing part of yourself, then they're only going to know you from one aspect of yourself, not your whole self. So it may have cause illusion or delusion on their side of it, their frame of reference to you, and cause this conflict between the both of you, which is the reality that's happening in the experience. So it changes both perspectives and dimensions in that reality. And so in order to have that come back through, you have to show all of yourself to a person, right? And that can be very uncomfortable. It could be very vulnerable to do that, and not just show up in a certain way to certain people so they like you, right? It's not about that. We don't want to be like that. We want to be able to our whole true self in the vision of everybody. Who am I being? What am I doing? I'm not going to just participate in this because this person likes this and I don't really want to do it, but they like it and they accept it, so I'm going to do it, right? So we're giving our power away in those situations. We're not being our true selves. We're not being true to ourselves. We're being a false person, a false, illusion to ourselves. We're not being true to ourselves. And so that's, basically a lot of times that's where we have problems, with our experiences in the world, is if we're only showing up as part of ourselves to who we are when we're with them and not our whole selves, which is true. And so with that reality, we're causing conflicts, not only with ourselves, but with the people around us. So it's hard for people to change, their perception when we're showing up to them in a certain way, right? And so a lot of times that's why they're saying, if you are dealing with addictions and things like that, it's a good time to not be in a relationship or not to start a relationship, because it's hard for people to see you in a different way than what you were. So it makes your recovery, hard at that point for you to change, because they're unless they're able to allow themselves to change your vision and view of you and focus on the good parts of you, not the bad parts of you, it's going to be hard for that change and shift to happen. But again, that's just a scenario. But that's, some questions that I've had, come up through in different times, and then with different scenarios with people, is like, why does their view are the same and they can't let go of that, right? Because that's like a snapshot in their frame of reference to you. That's how they relate to you as a person. That's how they know you. But there's so much more beyond that. That's just like a surface part of you. It's not the whole of you. It's not the true of you. And you want to be able to show the person your whole self, right? Not just that part of you. So to change that can be a little bit hard for people, because they just don't have that understanding, right? And so that's kind of like the framework of where everybody has the ability to be a good, I don't want to say good person, bad person, because there isn't, but you always have the ability to be or show up how you want to. We have positive and negative aspects of everything, and so to show that we have all of that to a person is very vulnerable, and to show them that we can be something else. You want to be able to show that you can be somebody else, right? And not just show up as you are. Because when you start having those behaviors, that person is going to go right back to that original thought, which is basically another video. But just to touch on that, is like when we're not running on your present conscious, so we're running on programs. So it's a program that they have installed that relates to you on how they know you. And so that automatically happens when we're not in the present moment, because what they're doing is they're reflecting back to how they know you, which is the past. They're not in the present moment. So present moment is how they're seeing you now. And so if they're not present, they're not seeing the present moment now you. They're seeing the present moment of you when you were then, not now. So they're relating to what they've known you at the image that they took of you, the mental picture, in the present moment, right? So they're bringing the past into the future. So they're not cutting that off, forgiving you, letting go, because there needs the healing and that needs to happen, in order for that to happen, so they can see you as the new person. So you can keep showing up to them as a new person, but they're going to keep relating to you to that old person, and until healing happens, they can't let that go, right? So they're just going to keep relating that, bringing that from the past to the present moment, and seeing you as that person, which perpetuates the presence of you who was and not is. And so it makes it a struggle for you to be your new person, if somebody's seeing you the way they used to know you and not as you are now, right? So because it kind of still ties you to that. So however you show up to a person is what ties you to that person from their perspective, and that's how they show you. And so they will never see you as another type of person, if you never show them any other aspects of you, right? It's perception, reality, how they see you from. And it's basically trying to change that for the person is not always easy, right? Unless they have the understanding of that. This is the person you knew then, and this is not the person that I know now, right? That's not who I'm being now. Unless they can heal that and let go of that and make that connection, being in the present moment, they're going to see you for your present moment person. It's a new picture, a new frame of reference that they're taking. So then they can refer to you by this new person that you are, and take a new snapshot per se, and then live from that point, right? Because everything that we experience, if we're not in our present moment, we're referring back to the programming of the old past information that we have, right? Unless it's a new experience, or that one has ended and we can change that, right? And so that was a whole different video that I'm going to get into on that. But yeah, so basically, it's basically just a frame of reference that people cannot see you, from your present moment person. If you've made change in your life or you're a different person showing up, they're going to be running on old programs, because if you pay attention and tune into it when you are away from a person for a long time and then you meet them again. So say you had a childhood friend and then you run into them like 30 years later, your mind is actually going to go back to programming as you knew them and going to bring it forward. And yes, I know that person. And I'll give an example. Like when I was a kid, my mother had a boyfriend who had a distinctive walk, right? I believe it was like around 17 years old I was. They pretty much the last time I seen them, and it really wasn't a good experience with that person. And so I don't know, after my awakening and then moving to Florida, probably about 30 some years later, I seen this person my first few weeks in this new area that I was in, miles away, states away. I seen this person starting to come out of this building and walk down the street, and I was like, I know that person just by the walk. And I couldn't see the face or who they were, but I knew the walk because it was an imprint in my mind. And I knew that person. Like, I know that person from somewhere. And so as they walked, I started to realize who they were. And I was like, oh my God. Anyway, but we have an imprint, right? And so our mind searches through our database of information and we bring it back up, right? And so we're either running in the present moment or we're running on a database of our past experience relating to it. And that's pretty much basically what that is. When people can't see that you've changed, they're running on old programs, not the new ones. They haven't created new spaces, of perception about you. And so basically that's just judgment. Judgment on these characteristics of you, who you are as this person, not seeing you as all of you, which is from different perspective, right? So I don't know if that helps, but it's either you're in the present moment in full consciousness in the present moment now, or you're running on old programs, right? And so that perpetuates the situation on what's going on now, whether they're in the past or in the future or in the present, wherever they are coming from. All right, so that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. I do sessions, and we do hypnosis, introspective sessions, love coaching, spiritual guidance, things like that, channeling, and intuitive sessions. All right, happy journeys.